Okay, so we are going to try taking this head off and um, putting nuts under each of those bolts so that we have more threads. Um, Brad suggested that I could, on that fourth one, I could grind off a bit of a longer M10 bolt, which I've done like that. You can see how I grinded off the end, hopefully. And but that started slipping on the threads as well, so I think when it's very stuck we need more threads, so we're going to put a bolt under all of those and work from there. So that's going to have to come off in order to do this. I've taken that off, and I just thought for anyone who's thinking about trying to do something similar to me, you can see that, oh there we go, you can see that this has cracked off. Now the original tool that this is based on, I think, the head honcho, actually put some sleeves over the studs with a ball bearing on top, and that's what would protect that and prevent it from happening. I might have a look to see if I can fabricate something like that, but I'm not convinced. I don't have the ball bearings. I might have the sleeves, but I don't have the ball bearings. But I can understand why it's done. So I'm finding with new bolts, when I come to try to screw them in, they go a little bit and then they get stuck. And I probably won't be able to show you one-handed. Oh, there we go. The new bolts with the nuts are fine. Now I drilled out these holes in the jig with this. No, not with that. With this over here. M10 1.5, which is a 3/8 NC16. Okay, so that's what I used. What I'm finding is it won't go in, but it does go in when I've used one of these, which is also the 3/8 NC16, and this one's still a bit hot. But when I do that, this, ouch, that goes in there easily now. Oh, sorry, I haven't got you in. That goes in easily. Okay. And it also goes in easily on these. You'd think I'd do it right-handed, since I am right-handed. Well, I'll show you here. These have already been cut. All right, so, and you can see it turns very easily. So without touch. So the M10 nuts are great, but the M10 bolts appear to cause me a little bit of a problem. Now, these say they're for both, but very clearly my holes and my threads aren't quite right for whatever reason. And I decided that having that friction, as just against the jig isn't good, so that's why I've cut them out. So that's what I'm going through is I'm cutting all of these down so that they actually screw in and through the nuts easily, because it seems to me that way it's not got that pressure against it as well. If that's no good, it doesn't really matter, because it's easy enough to get new bolts where it's harder to do new threads. So that's what I'm doing. and I will be doing at least one long one, if not a couple as well. So I've got 4 of those. I need a 5th one, and then a couple of long ones, so I've got something else as I need. So I spent a lot of time and effort rethreading all of these, and then I went and noticed that, I mean, look at that, that's just no good. So that's well in, but you know, you can see it coming through the other end somewhere there, but it's really loose. So we're going back to the M10s, which once you get started do go in. Where is it? Here. Oh, that's why I've got it on tweet there. Once we get started, it does go in fine, I think. Anyway, well, I'm going to test that out before I do anything more. Okay, I would suggest here that if things could have gone wrong, they have. So, what have I been doing? Well, I started. Oh, what's this? Okay. So I started by welding some M10 bolts on the back side. So I put these 4 in. So these were the 4 which you know, had basically been okay. All right. So I did the M10 bolts on the back side, and then realised that I couldn't get M10 threads in there. And the issue is that when it goes from here through into the other one, they were getting stripped. I can't find right now the one that I had. Oh, here it is. So if you, I don't know if it comes out, but I screwed that, bolted that all the way in and out, and you can see the thread is completely gone compared to a good one. Okay, so it just completely went. Now the bit that I'm using in order to do the thread is a 3/8. It's marked as a 3/8 N16, and it's marked as an M10 1.5. So I took it to be the same thing. Anyway, because of that, what I did is all of these I cut down to 3/8 116, 3/8 NC16. Okay, so those now all screw in and out fairly easily. What worries me about them is that they all move just a little bit, and I'm not sure that that's great, so I might have a problem there. Now on this one I drilled out the thread that I put in, and my plan was, I've got a helicoil arriving. I was hoping it was going to arrive today. It hasn't arrived today, so it won't be till Monday, and I don't feel like waiting. So I thought I'd put a bolt on either side, okay, and just use an M10. Now I have welded 1 bolt onto this side and 4 onto this side, and every time I do, I end up getting it so that my bolt is getting stuck in some way. It's either, you know, I fix them in place nicely, then I weld them, I take this out, when I come to put it back in I just can't get them to go through, or if I do it whilst it's still hot it ends up cooling off and getting stuck in there, or all kinds of problems. So I've taken it off, on, you know, it's taken ages. I've given up. I'm just doing 1 M10 here. Okay, so I'm going to clean off some of this mess now, and then I'm going to actually fit it and see if this will get it off. So this is an M10, all the others are 3/8, or M10s down to 3/8. So we'll see how we go. But oh, what a day. Okay, I've put it all back together. We're going to give it a go. Oh, not a good day. Just realised I haven't been recording the time lapse. Okay, so These ones, I'm not going to turn them because they're all moving very easy because it's coming off here relatively well. These two, I'm struggling to turn them. So, so I'm not sure what to do. I mean, at least I know I'm now getting pressure across the whole way. And I'm trying to get it to come up evenly. So if we come and have a look from over here. Okay, we can see it's coming away relatively evenly. Alright, and I have got it away a bit more than I had before. But still not quite there. So, trying to think about what to do. And what I might do is let it all down again and get some more WD-40 in that one that's proving to be difficult, just to help lubricate it up a bit more. It's certainly coming slowly, or I might just leave it and see if it frees itself up a bit overnight. No, I'm going to loosen them all off. I'm going to spray some WD-40 in there. I'm going to come back and try again tomorrow. I have got it a bit further away, so it is slowly coming. Comes easily on this side, but this side is really tight still, so much so that I've wrecked a couple more bolts. And just to show you, this one just spins, and this one, well, it won't go in or out. You can see it's just got all bent out of shape. So I think, and it's all on this one stud. It's all on this stud because the others have all come out. So it's all stuck on there. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the jig off again. I'm going to knock the head back down to, just tap it back in place so that, so that it's moved a bit. It's gone up and down. Okay, so if anything's catching it, hopefully that knocks it back out of the way. And then we'll give it another go with some, two of those bolts replaced. So I think that's what I'm going to do next. I've removed all the studs apart from this one here. You can see it moves super easy, but I cannot get it to go back down or come up. So it's all on that stud, and I don't understand why it won't shift back up and down unless I've done something to that stud and expanded it in the middle. On the basis that I've pulled it up, it should go back down, is kind of my view. So I don't know, but if we go around to the other side, we can see over here. Can we see in there at all? Over here, we can see, how far down the stud is, which I suppose you'd expect based on what we saw from the other side. But I just can't work out how to shift it that last bit. I mean, I'm beginning to think I might have to try to get a hacksaw in there and cut it. But I really don't like the idea of that and the possible damage of scraping stuff. So what I've tried to do today, it's Monday now, is put back in the 4 studs that I've still got and try to tighten the head back down. And I'm not able to do that either, so I've really got something jammed in there in some way, and I don't know what I've done or how or anything. So I'm really coming to the conclusion where I'm just going to have to get in the middle there, just that little bit, and cut that stud off. And I do have, I was thinking of doing it with this, which I guess the reason I'm thinking of doing it in that is I can get that in. It's just a bit too big to get my hacksaw in there. Sorry, a bit too small a gap to get my hacksaw in there. So, but I can't think of any other way. And I could just get a blade in there, I guess. But I can't think of any other way to get that to budge. It's just not moving. And I mean, it just won't go either way, and I don't know why. So, in the trying not to rush this, give it plenty of time, I'm going to spray some WD-40 in there again. And that's been going in most days, but you can see it fill up there and then dribble away, so it's dribbling, it's soaking away and it's getting in down at the bottom. It must be disappearing through there. So anyway, we'll leave that for another day and come back to it tomorrow. I decided to use my hacksaw, so I cut it off by hand in the end. That's the stud on the one side, and here it is on the other, and so here it is on the other. So I deliberately put the hacksaw underneath the gasket so that the gasket was protecting the aluminium as opposed to protecting the steel. The idea being, well, to protect it. And looking at this, that looks okay from that point of view. But also looking at it, I mean, it looks like, I'm sure these are meant to be open holes. They should, I'm sure, be open, as waterways. Same down here, well, at least some of them. So some bits are truly clogged beyond belief. So what are we going to do next? Right, so the purpose of doing all of this, there was two reasons really. One is give myself time before I spend a lot of money on something to lift it out and hold it, but also know what I'm doing for the other car, which I don't have all the tools at the same place to do. So what we're going to do with this is we're going to get that stud out of both there and here, and then we're actually going to put it back in place. And we might have a bit of a look at it first, but we're actually going to put it back in place so that we can take the whole engine out together. It's just to make it easier for disassembly when it all does come off. So I don't think I'm going to do particularly more than that at this point. But hopefully this is going to help us get the other one off. So the bottom bit of the screw of the stud just unscrewed by hand. That was nice and loose. So it's just going to be the top that's going to be a problem getting it out of the head. Okay, so I got the rest of the stud out as well now. That took a lot of hammering. Okay, that did not come out easily. There was a lot of effort went into that. And you can see the bolt that I used as my drift, just how bent out of shape it is now. So I'm a little bit worried. You can see we've got a little bit of lost shape here. Now I'm not sure if that's me when I was trying to take the head off and actually I was just slightly off centre, which is entirely possible. Okay, I can't see down, I mean I can see down there, but we don't have enough light for you to. And what we've got is, we just appear to have a little bit of a ridge, about 1 centimetre down, I guess. I'm not quite sure why. Anyway, I'll get a pick in there or something and just see what it's like in there. But other than that, I've got it all off now. I always knew that these move, so I've got the head off. That's what I wanted to do. Make sure I knew what I was doing for the other one. And I'm just going to place it back on now. I'm going to put, I think I've still got 3 decent studs. We'll put those 3 in, just hold it loosely in place, whilst I move on to the next thing. The head puller that I developed will break the seal, but it won't ever pull it all the way off, because it's going to foul on the timing chain. And I'll show you what I mean. If we look here, how close where the studs enter the block are, and they're nice and close. Okay, they're right up at the top here, so I need the studs along here to get the studs on, but I can't get it over the timing chain there. So actually it works to break the seal, which is what I found. I mean, I did pull it away, but at that point it must have been fouling on here or something, which is why I couldn't get it any higher. I don't know what, but there was something going on. Although it was that, I mean, having said that, it was a truly, well and truly stuck stud, but yeah, I think I was always coming down to this, so I might have that same thing with the car at my parents', in that if I can't move that stud, I'm going to have to cut it. Anyway, good to know. Right, so I've put that back on loosely. I mean snugly, but not taut. And I'll move on to other things. Just before I finish this episode, I thought we'd have a quick look at all the bits for the puller. And I am actually, although a little disappointed it didn't come off completely, I'm quite happy with the puller. So I found the designs for this. So I heard about the head honcho. I did write to the Wedge Club to see if I could get the designs, but I found a set of designs on the Stag Owners forum, and they're not complete, and I've put a link in on the previous video, and I'll try to do it on this one as well, to those designs. Okay, this I think should now fit my TR7s and my Stag engine. I had to make some modifications, so just here, it doesn't tell you how to line these up, as in where the threads should all line up. As it happens, looking at it, these appeared, the 3 in the middle appear to line up exactly, and so that's the basis of it. But as I said, I would have done it slightly off centre if I were doing it again, I think. Partly I had to cut this edge a bit in order to make it fit the TR7. I don't know if I'll have to do this edge for the other edge for the Stag, given it gets turned around. So we then, this along here, I made a very slight error of measurement at the end, and that was partly because of thinking about the way I did it was to centre it all, and I don't think that was quite right. But so these holes are slightly too big, but it all fits quite snugly, and these are bolted down with, I use washers on the top to make sure it gets spread out, and then I use the rocker washer and nut. Okay, and that locks it down. So I'm not going to take my rocker washer and nut with me when we try to do the one in at my parents', because we have a rocker up there. Okay, and then we've got these 3 bits which fit to the exhaust manifold, and they come in here and they get bolted on there, like that. Okay, and so what I'm using for those, so I'm using these M8s. M10s would probably be a better, I didn't quite get my measurements exactly right, so these are good enough. And I've got a washer on either side, so the way I've been doing it is this comes up like that, okay, through there and then bolted on. Right, so part of the kit of my stuff is I've got those 3 with their associated M8 nuts, bolts and washers. Now they get fitted to the exhaust, the exhaust manifold, simply using the exhaust bolts. Now I know that I've lost at least one up in my parents', as in it wasn't on the engine. One has been sheared, at least. I don't quite remember what the others are like, so I'm going to take these with me so that I have them when we try to do that engine. And then the last bit is a bunch of M10 bolts, and so I drilled these as M10s initially, okay, and because I didn't think I was getting enough, and I've put bolts on the back, as you can see, okay, because I didn't think I was getting a good enough grip. Actually, now that I've looked at the studs and how they're pointing out, I think I probably did have a good enough grip, and I was trying to pull it beyond where it could go. So I bolted on I welded on some M10s. The problem with that was when I then tried to put my M10s in here, and I did it really carefully so that they would appear to be screwing in fine. But I then found that when I was trying to do it under pressure, the threads were stripping, and so these 4 have all been I've been using bolts which I have used my M10 cutter on, and this sounds dumb, so these were done with a tap and die set which said M10 1.5, which is the same as 3/8 NC16, I think, and although the bolts went into the M10 and they went in here, the bolts went into the M10 nuts by themselves fine, and the bolts went into these quite tight, but they went in okay. That was great, but then if I cut them to, when I welded it together, they didn't. They started to cross thread. So, and I swear I tested and tested and tested before I welded to make sure I had it in just the right place. And in fact, I even tested as I was doing it. It was once they came under pressure, it stopped working. So I cut these to 3/8 and they worked fine. Now I think I don't need the bolts on the back of this, the nuts. I don't need the nuts on the back of this. I think if I just used the bolts with the M10 thread I'd cut, it would have been fine. I just buggered it up. And just as an example, I mean, you can see how some of them, the bolts got, with the amount of pressure I was putting on. I mean, I'm worried that I've done some damage to my head there because of it. But there we are. So, along with the washers, a good collection of M10 bolts will be going up with me in order to try to break free the head up there. I think we're going to have the same problem there that I've had here in that one bolt is quite well stuck, and we'll see how far we can get it off. But if we can get enough room to cut it, then we'll go through that again. So I'm going to finish this episode here. I hope it's relatively interesting. I think in terms of the jig itself, the metal for this cost me 36 quid, and I could have got it cheaper if I had bothered to try. Okay, so I overpaid for that. I just was trying to make it easy for myself, and I had all the bits cut to size just to make it easy for myself. If I was doing it again, I would cut it myself, because actually in some ways the measurement, the accuracy isn't quite of the sizes isn't quite as serious as I thought. So I could have done that cheaper. I then had to get some drill bits, and I also had to get myself a drill press. So overall it actually cost me 150 quid to do it. But if I'd just been doing, and actually even then, you know, I've now got quite a good tool in terms of my press now, you know, my bench drill, and I've got a lot better drill bits than I had before. So I'm not fussed by most of it. You know, the real cost was around this and a few bolts, and so I would say you could easily, if you had a drill, you could easily do this for under £50. You know, which is, and a bit of time, and it's quite enjoyable. So, you know, I don't actually regret doing it. I'm quite pleased with how it's come out, and some of the learning. So yeah, so we're going to move on now. At some point I will tidy this up and paint it and stuff, just so it's a bit nicer. It might be like that before you see it next time, or it might not, but I'm going to certainly hold on to this as a collection of bits to make into a to use as a tool. Next episode, I think we're going to try to make a slide hammer for that left hand thread on the water pump, to see if we can get that out. And the reason I'm going to do that is, again, I'm thinking about the other car, and I want to, and the other car is you know, it's seized. A slide hammer on there. I've read something. I saw a program, and the engine was frozen. It wasn't a Triumph. It was a Fiat X19, but the engine was seized, and it was seized because of the water pump was seized. And so I wonder if the engine on the other one is seized because of the water pump. I don't know, but that's what I'm wondering. And so that's what I'm going to try to have available to take with me next time. And so again, I'll test it on this car in order to try and get that out.